Hey, this is video 104. On the screen is probably one of the biggest narrative shifts you can do. So let's just start this off with 10-second exercise. Now, write down the problems that you have right now that are top of mind. Okay, that's enough. I don't want you thinking about your problems that much anyway, because one of the biggest mistakes people make is they tend to focus on reducing problems, like get rid of the anxiety, get rid of the money stress, get rid of the relationship strain. But what that does is it keeps them doing what's called symptom chasing. And there's a much better way to think about it. So the narrative shift is I need to stop fixing my problems and I'm going to let my growth do the fixing. Most people's problems feel unique to them. So these are the 7 categories of problems that I've seen over the years. And I've been at this since 1974. These are the 7 categories that I think all problems fit into. One of them is just there's an emotional load. It's just not easy. There's nothing light. A lot of times people will try to figure out I'm anxious or depressed. And I'm like, doesn't make any difference. You're just feeling heavy. Another one is avoidance, like just escapism, scrolling, shopping, drinking. Another big one, I don't know who I am, or I'm faking it all the time, and I just don't know what to do. And if I do this, this won't work. It's just conflicting goals. Just see if yours is on this list. This one is really common, like over preparing, analysis paralysis. So you fear that I can't, fear that I can. I can, but I won't. Just sort of perfectionism and shame. Another one is just other people, other relationships, other people's priorities take over. I get disconnected from myself, bunch of people pleasing, disconnected from spouse. Again, there's more in this slide than what I'm saying, but just see if yours shows up on this slide because the odds are it is. What about you do have a bunch of goals, but you don't have enough energy to pull it off, and the environment that you're in, the context that you're in, whatever it is, just doesn't support the change. It maybe it's lazy or it's chaotic or there's clutter or you're just depleted. You can't get sleep, sitting too much, a little too much TV, a little too much computer time, for nutrition. This one, a lot of people separate these, but they're really basically whether you can look at your resources, create something, and then execute on that design about how I'm going to use my time and money. And not doing that means all sorts of problems come up. So I'll bet lots of times people's problems fall into these categories. So let's just simplify it here a little bit. Most people, it's poor health, money, and relationships. If we add my 7 to that list, it looks like this. Now, let's say this circle here, let's say I'm person A and you're person B. And person A, me, I need more money. So what I'm going to focus on, or I need better health, is I just need to get in shape. I just need more money. Just going to think about that and try to just get in shape and get more money. Nothing wrong with those, except, and let's say that you have the same exact situation and that your problems and my problems look exactly alike. Or let's just say this, whatever you wrote on your list, it's on my list too. So that little black circle there represents the problems you wrote down. And let's say I have the exact ones. Now, this is the really common approach. And you can see you can understand why people would do this is let's work on those problems and let's just shrink them. Let's just shrink the money problem. Let's shrink the poor health problem. Let's shrink the strained relationship problem, usually by, improving my spouse is the way that people usually try to do that. And look, if you work on that, the truth is in the pre-post comparison, it will make a difference. It will make a difference to focus on trying to solve the problems. It won't eliminate the problems, but it will improve. What if you, doing the smarter thing, decided to focus on that outer circle and you decided to grow your entire life in any old way that made sense, in any old way that you could do it? You decided to grow your happiness or your courage, or you decided to grow your growth mindset. You decided to grow all sorts of things that can be grown. And so that your life basically looks like this. The problems, by the way, haven't changed. It's just that your life got bigger. My approach is called symptom chasing and symptom relief. Your approach is the one where growth fixes the problem. And it happens in 2 ways. Number one, because your life is larger, your problems by comparison feel smaller. If you look at those first two pictures, it's like the problems are taking up almost all of life. Grow your life, even if the problems stay the same, they don't feel as bad. That's part one of why growth fixes problem. But the second part is, imagine if you're person B right there and you have all of those resources because you've grown your life, and now you're trying to fix the problems that are that size. So do you see how that would be so much easier? There's more of you, by comparison, fewer problems. And the more of you starts working on those problems. Easier to do that. Easier to work on problems if you have more resources, more capacity. The basic narrative shift that is needed is, I'm going to work on my psychological growth, and I will let my personal development fix my problems. I'm not going to try to fix my problems directly, but it's not very effective. It's not very permanent. So what life looks like with growth as the main focus is, there's a kind of listening to the right things. You just start ignoring static. There is a listening more deeply to yourself. There's a kind of yearning that was built into. There's a lot of problems that are solved by just respecting and responding to that deep yearning inside yourself, like knowing what it is and then respecting it. Part of what happens when people use growth to fix their problems is a thing that I call organic health improvement. The reason that growth fixing your problems turns into organic health improvement is that you just work on the right things at the right time with the right amount of effort. A little bit on movement this week because other things, but that doesn't mean you're not going to work on like spiritual development or emotional development. Around here, we partition health into physical, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual. And there are times when the right thing to do is just read a good book and not go running. The other thing that happens when people use growth to fix their problems is they often don't run off to marriage counseling. Now, I'm a marriage counselor, so I'm not putting down marriage counseling, but there's a lot of things that can be made better in a relationship by just accepting we could grow our relationship stronger. Even if it's good, it could be better. They're not, there are very few people who would say, I'm in perfect health. There is nothing else I could do. Are your relationships really in perfect health? Because mine's pretty good, and I can still tell you how it could get better. So part of what happens when growth is used to fix problems is that there is an intentional focus on relationships before messes happen. There's an intentional focus on strengthening your connection with children so that even if they're in their 30s and their 40s, you are a person of influence in their life because they look at you and they go, well, I'd like my life to turn out like mom's. I'd like my life to turn out like dad's. Looks like they're doing pretty well. To become and stay a person who is of influence because your relationships are strong. Also, you change how you use money when you are growing. It doesn't mean that you put yourself on some sort of austere kind of budget where the only thing that is purchased is ramen noodles. It means that your purchases are mindful. They aren't impulse anymore. They aren't quick fixes. They fit into the totality of your life. Impulse purchasing means like a lot more paper towel than they need. So purchases are mindful. And there's a plan for creating wealth. It's strategic. There is a plan, and people stick with the plan. So, this is all what growth does to fix problems. And what symptom chasing does, or what symptom relief does, is it's just going after generally too tiny of an approach to, I'd like my life to be better. How would you know in yourself or in other people if psychological growth, if they're using growth to fix problems? Well, first thing you see is there's a lot more emotional capacity. They are compassionate people towards themselves. They're not super up and down in their mood. They're calm, they're resilient, they're hopeful. They are engaged instead of numbing themselves down with whatever the latest greatest TikTok challenge is. They have focused starts, they pay attention, they practice deliberately. They don't exclude everything. They just, this is the thing I'm going to practice this week or this month. They are present during leisure. There's a lot of here and now enjoyment going on, purposeful rest. They take naps as needed. They get to bed as needed. They also, you will also get a sense of more and more, the longer you're around somebody who's using growth as a way to solve problems, is they kind of solve problems by really knowing who they are And because they know who they are, it's easy to come up with what's the next step. They still might have imposter feelings. Those are hard to eliminate completely, I think, for some reason. Today's world seems like even the people that I know who should never have had a single imposter feeling, they still seem to have them for some reason. But those feelings are kind of quiet. They're in the background. They're like a piece of static, a static, and they're just kind of ignored. And then this is another thing that you will see when people are using growth to solve problems rather than trying to fix the problems directly. They start messy and they learn fast. They don't need to be perfect. They do realistic risk taking, quick course correction for the win. They just do that. Like, oh, we were going to try that. We did that. Didn't work. What's the next idea we're going to do? The other thing around relationships is there's a balance between other people's needs and your needs. High quality friendships, they're always interested in the people around them. They apologize. They do repairs as needed because that is a part of relationships. The other thing that happens is that their body and the context they are living in support the change they are going for. They are goal directed. They are trying to get somewhere. And their body is a part of how do I get there. So you don't see a lot of clutter. You see in their world cueing for the kind of behavior that they're trying to have. They expect that they might have some pain, that there might be some struggle. If they're doing something physical, maybe they have a personal trainer, and that trainer knows what to do with pain. Stretch it this way, or tape it up that way, or don't, or rest. Don't train this week. So there's a pain plan. There's plenty of protein in the picture. And again, I put money and time together because those are resources and they have designed their time to work well for them. Again, mindful purchases. They're taking a look at how they're spending time and money on a regular basis and they're shifting. And this is, once you're in the habit of this, it's quite easy to do that. If you were to focus on growing yourself, so that of these 7 things listed on the screen, you would have more and more of that. And you just did that for, let's just say, a year or so. What could your life look like? Let growth do your fixing. If you do nothing else, but you stop going after fixing yourself and trying to fix your problems, you will have a much better year. If you do nothing else than just change that one narrative, there's a lot more you can do. And that, of course, is what the next videos are about.